And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. This is a quote from John F. Kennedy's inaugural address, and perhaps his most famous line ever. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, or often referred to as Jack, or by his initials JFK, was the 35th President of the United States. Kennedy married Jacqueline, and they had 2 children, Caroline and John Jr. John was extremely intelligent from a very young age and graduated from Harvard University in 1940. John wanted to pursue a career in journalism, but first decided to serve his country. So he wanted to join the Army, but but he had persistent back problems, and he suffered from Addison's disease, so he was turned down. So instead decided to join the Navy. As we all know, JFK was assassinated before his term was complete and just after serving only 2 years. He was the youngest president and the youngest to die. His vice president, Lyndon B. Johnson, took over after his assassination. Kennedy created the Peace Corps and was known for being extremely charismatic and being able to win over and captivate his audiences. He appealed to family people because he was a father of 2 young children and was the closest thing that America has seen as perhaps a royal family, him, his wife, and his 2 kids. He was he played an extremely important role in World War II, and he's known for having strong influences in the events leading up to World War II and the Bay of Pigs invasion. And now Wendy's going to talk to you a little bit about some of his techniques and why he was such a powerful speaker.
First, Kennedy was able to impact the world when he was able to discourage the world from killing each other with nuclear weapons when the United States was going to go to war with Cuba. He was able to use words and arrange them in such a way that presented and persuaded a different perspective on how to look at war and peace. For example, in this part of his speech, he put, "Finally, to those nations that would make themselves our adversary, we offer not a pledge but a request that both sides begin anew the quest for peace before the dark powers of destruction unleashed by science engulf all humanity in planned or accidental self-destruction." Also, many of the phrases of his speeches have made a great impact on how people think today. For example, one of the most famous phrases is, "Ask not what America can do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man." This phrase has made Americans more united and work together in a positive way that promotes peace, freedoms, and diversity, because each one is contributing in a different way to help each other out. Another phrase is, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." This is another phrase that has lasted for a long time, and even today, Americans are still striving to be faithful to the same. And Cyril will tell us the significance of his speeches.
A quote from his inaugural address: "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country," provides an illustration and illusion of. Kennedy's speeches can be described as a motivational, persuasive, or inspirational. This well-known speech by John F. Kennedy, famed for its powers of verbal and oral communication, makes excellent use of the words and language which he uses through ethos and pathos. The purpose of his speech was to get a point across, like we all do in our speech class, so that our audience could know what we really want to achieve. In public speaking, it all comes down to this question: how can you win over your audience? And the answer is credibility. So now, Christina will quiz each of us.
Well, first I'm gonna, lastly, on the reason why we chose John F. Kennedy was because of the impact that he had on America. He still lives in the American memory today, and is notably one of the most favorable and well-liked presidents. he could get in front of an audience of thousands of people, not just in person, but people watching all across the nation, watching him on TV or listening on the radio to him, and who were won over by this man, and to influence events that were happening in the world in current times is a phenomenal thing. He was extremely charismatic and knew the right words to win over and persuade his audiences. He used techniques such as trying to appealing to them and relating to them, and that he was no different from them, and to bring unity, to bring the country together, and make everybody more united. And so I have a little activity. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, because we could do 5 groups. Okay. What is the name of the book written by JFK that was published in 1940, which discusses some of the decisions that led to World War II? So, does anybody know the answer? No. Okay. So we have a little activity. So if you guys could get into groups, or just if you want to do it in the rows, like all this is one group, and then maybe together then, and then let me explain this. Each group is going to get an envelope, and that's his speech up there, but it's cut into these little strips. And so you have to, with your group, put them in order, and then once you have them in order, turn them around, and on the back, it spells out the answer to this question. And the group that does it first wins. Do you guys have any questions? I'll explain that as clearly as possible. Okay, so here's group 1, and then group this down. If you wanted just to see.
Sure, take this.